So auto insurance is what gives drivers coverage for any of the risks or accidents that may happen when they're driving on the road or even just having their car parked in the driveway. The biggest reason that you want to have it is because accidents do happen. I think the easiest way to think about this is, you know, you want to be protective of yourself from other drivers. Most people think of themselves as very good drivers, but you want to be able to protect yourself whether you are at fault or whether someone else is at fault, or maybe just a branch falls in your car in the driveway during a storm. When people do need it, insurance is one of their favorite things to have. Hopefully you never do, but you need to have it just in case. There's a few different types of coverage under an auto insurance policy. A few of the big ones are liability coverage, which you can think of as bodily injury liability as well as property damage liability. Those are relatively self-explanatory, but it covers people as well as property damage, and that might be a car, it might be someone else's property. Maybe you've hit a tree or a fence, as well as then collision coverage for your or someone else's car, and then lastly, comprehensive coverage. Now, comprehensive isn't mandatory in all states in the U.S., but it is something that we certainly recommend to everybody because it is going to cover you against some of the things that you can't really control, whether you're in the car or not. So that might include theft, vandalism, severe weather. And so checking with your insurance company as to what exactly is going to be covered under that comprehensive and how that would work is important to understand. So there are a number of factors that determine what somebody may pay for their auto insurance. And this does vary by state. Each state has different determining factors that they favor that may increase or potentially decrease how much you pay. So there's a vast amount of variety between states. So if you move, it's always important to check what your rates might be in the new state or the new place that you live. But to get into a few of the major ones, your driving record. Obviously, the better of a driver that you are, the lower your premiums are likely to be. If you've gotten into accidents or if you have traffic violations, that's going to negatively impact you. How much you use your car and how much you're driving is also going to matter. The more that you're on the road, the more likely that you could have an issue with your car or have a collision event or some sort of an accident. So obviously that's going to impact the amount of coverage that you may need. And then again, I mentioned location, but interstate as well as within your own state, whether you're in a city versus the country, those are going to be very different risk factors. And then one of the other things that isn't always used but can be is things like your credit and your gender. And so it is important to understand how that might impact you and whether your state is one that does use those two factors to determine auto insurance rates. So this is a tough question to answer in any specificity because everybody's different. Certain states have minimum coverage that you have to have. And so obviously, there's going to be a floor at what you can get for coverage, and that's for liability reasons. But for most people, they may want or they may need much more than that, depending on what they consider to be their risk factors, their financial assets that they may want to protect. Because if you were to get into an accident and you were sued, your financial assets could be at risk. So, really balancing how much you are willing to take on from a monetary risk perspective, as well as how much you want to cover yourself and others for things like damage to your own car or medical expenses that you might incur for yourself or others that may be driving with you or that you get into an accident with. I think the biggest piece of advice is to just be aware of what are you paying today and what are your options for coverage, similar coverage or better coverage for the same or a lower cost. And that's something that we specialize in at Savvy, is allowing users to go and understand what is the market offering. What can they get for the same or lower price from comparing and competing auto insurance companies. It makes sense to at least once a year check on your auto insurance rates and compare those against others because most likely there may be an opportunity for you to save. What Savvy offers to drivers is a marketplace of auto insurance companies that they can compare their current coverage towards. So it gives you, as the driver, an opportunity to look at hundreds of other regional and national carriers free of charge. We want to give you the opportunity to compare against as many options as possible so that you can make the best choice for you and your family.